Here we go, ladies, gentlemen, friends, foes, people, humans, animals, aliens. I don't care who you are, what you're doing. Here we are on the Real Resilience Talk Show together, because, like I like to say, and I always try to say, like it or not, we are all we got. So, on this show, we're gonna gather, we're gonna get together, we're gonna talk real about some subjects. As I've said before, this is not a reflection or endorsement from any official organization or anything like that. We did get an endorsement from Monchichi Rex. That's why my homeboy let me use this track, right? It's a pretty good track, right? Monchichi Rex, you can look him up. But aside from that, man, we're just trying to get real on this, and we're gonna get after subjects of resilience and the hard times or the good times, whatever it is. You might hear some bad words, but I promise you this, you also hear some good words too. So give it a shot. If you don't want to hear that, then you can just stop listening right now. If you do, well, I say keep listening, and I appreciate your support. But on the show today, I have a very cool guest, very wise guest, very wise man, gentleman. My man T over here, man. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Real Resilience Talk number 43. My man T Wise, how are you doing, brother?
Good, good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, very welcome, man. Very welcome. So, on this show, I think you've listened to an episode or two, and we got put in touch together by a mutual friend, a mutual mentor of both of ours. And he just told me you're doing some amazing things in the area, and you represent your experience and what you've done and what you've been through and what you're working towards. So, just wanted to get at it today, and then we're going to surround around the subject of resilience. I've told everybody on the show, resilience to me is about you, it's about you can get and keep moving forward, right? How much can you take and keep moving forward, right? Like that's what it is. I mean, there's PTSD, there's post traumatic stress disorder, but there's also PTSG. There's growth, there's beauty in the suffering, and sometimes to grow, we must suffer in the spirit of Goggins without being a masochist, right? Don't take it too far, everybody, okay? There's a certain level there, but to grow. So that's me. Y'all have heard me enough from me. So do you, Mr. T. Mr. T, I like that.
I like that too. I gotta get a deeper voice to be able
I
to pull
like,
that, but
yeah, get some more jewelry. We'll publish our video. But with that said, boss, what is resilience to you?
yeah. So I've listened to quite a few episodes of yours, and everyone has these good definitions, and mine's not as complex. Mine's really simple, but it's the ability to adapt and overcome challenges. But I guess the caveat to that is, and I don't hear it as often, is it's not just being able to work through the hardships and the issues. It's being vulnerable and recognizing that there is a hardship you have to go through, and sometimes you just got to accept hey, I'm having trouble, and that's a part of the resiliency thing too that not a lot of people really think about. So that's it speaks to me.
No, that's real. I obviously Brene Brown, right? The vulnerability, there's courage there, but also to not be naive and to not suppress it. I have a friend, a mentor of mine, who she's a psychologist, and she told me, she was like, "Look, sometimes you got to look at that depression over there and look at that anxiety over there. Be like, I see you right there, but you ain't gonna stop me from what I'm doing over here. But I acknowledge you. But it's not like what they say, toxic positivity. Like it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. There's no way it can be
Right.
here. No, it sucks. Some days suck. Some things suck, and sometimes there is a time and a place to compartmentalize and keep pushing forward, right? But then there's other times to acknowledge it and then work through it and then grow through it, man. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's a very good definition. Adapt, adjust, overcome, Semper Gumby. That's what we do. But I also want to ask, what's your background and why you're here today?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Taryn Wise. Unlike some of the other guests that you've had on the show, my entire time has not been in the military. It's only like a small little stint in my life, but it definitely opened me up to a lot of new perspectives and new people and new experiences in life. So I come with the background, a little bit of the military veteran background. I was in the Navy for 8 years serving on submarines as a nuclear chemist, but since then it's been trying to find that identity. So I went to got out of the military, went to a community college because I couldn't get into any other school, which is fine. Some adaptation,
Yeah.
being able to adapt to that. But then went to school. So now I'm at Brown University, school in Providence, Rhode Island, if you've heard of it, the
Yeah,
smallest
man. Yeah,
state.
Brown University, man. From nuclear
Absolutely,
submarines underneath the water, not getting no vitamin D, to now you at Brown University. Man, good for
exactly.
you, man. Congratulations on that. And fed your
Thank
way
you.
through it by going through community college.
I did, and
That's
it was not easy. I would say that it was definitely not easy.
that is so cool, man. And you in Providence, Rhode Island?
Providence, Rhode Island. You know,
Yeah.
it's between New York and Boston, so that's no one
So,
knows where it is.
so just a really bad accent is what I'm hearing. Not from
You
you,
know,
but nah, just play it. I'm kidding.
sometimes I try to like throw an accent in there, or I'll say like I'm trying to get a coffee, but then
Yeah,
I realize I can't do a Boston, I can't do New York, so I'm trying to like merge it.
yeah. I
I'm
did
I'm
like
just an
that though.
outsider.
Yeah,
Thank
just
you,
hey,
thank
he's
you.
not from around here. Where is home besides the submarine, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay, that's where Prince from, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So, when you ever watch Dave Chappelle?
Oh yes.
So one of my favorite sketches is when he was was he playing Prince? And he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, we was playing basketball." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Game,
Yeah.
blouses." And
Blouses.
the one quote was like, "Why don't you go purify yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka?"
Yeah, yeah,
That was probably one of the
yeah.
most funny Dave Chappelle has some good skits.
Yeah, man, that
Season one,
show,
season
man.
two.
God, I miss that show, and I miss most of all on that show is Charlie Murphy, man. He's one of my all-time idols, man. I love Charlie Murphy, and I got to see him live one time. He's just such a humble, hilarious, just happy to be there guy, man. Man, just the way he told those stories it was all the time. And then afterwards, he served us pancakes. Prince kid ball.
What do you
Rest
do afterwards? It's stirred his pancakes.
served us pancakes. Yeah, yeah. But the line from the Purple Rain movie, the what'd you say, the shores of Lake? I can't even say it right.
Why don't you go purify yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka? And like it was and I hope that's like a true story, and I'm sure it is.
I heard
But
no, I heard
it's
for real he can ball. Like I've heard that from. I actually saw some other people do some interviews, like actual NBA players that like just happened to somehow find themselves, and they were like, "Yo, Prince can actually play basketball like really good. I guess he's real good, man." It was like I think somebody was like he's like an Iverson before an Iverson, how quick he was and just driving to the
wow.
hole. I was like, wow, hey, don't be judging blouses now. It gets you. You know what I mean? Hey,
Everybody's got those hidden skills and talents.
I'm
You know,
telling
you
you,
know.
man. I just totally derailed that conversation. I'm sorry, man. My high
um,
definition of ADHD came out, and I'm like, hold up, you from Minneapolis got Prince. You like the Vikings too? Sorry.
but yeah, no. I grew up in Minnesota. I started out in San Diego area where my mom was in the Navy, but then we moved out to Minnesota. Grew up there, joined the Navy, got the whole East Coast experience. Went to Charleston, went to upstate New York, Jacksonville, Florida, good old Norfolk, Virginia, where every good sailor
Yeah,
goes.
that's right. Getting all up in you from Virginia, the seven five
Mm-hmm.
seven. Yeah, that's my home.
757.
Yeah, that's my home.
And
Not
then
now, but that's where I'm from. Yeah.
now I'm up here in Providence. Just
Wow, man.
tried to
All
get to the
around the
West
world.
Coast, but I never got to.
I've been trying to do the same doggone thing, man. And every time I just something doesn't happen. Or I did go and I went to the middle of the desert where the hills have eyes. And it was like I went to China Lake. I don't know if you ever heard of that place, but
Nope.
yeah, the hills have eyes, bro. It's a good place, good people and stuff like that. But it's in the middle of like literally like nothing and nowhere. It's 2 hours north of LA. So the best part was I was 2 hours door to door from the comedy store. So I could go down there and just watch, people I aspire to hopefully be like one day or whatever. But um yeah, California. I would love to be there too. But hey, it just is what it is. And here we are, Rhode Island, Virginia, and here we are doing our thing, man. So what is it like you get into up there? I mean, I know you're going to school, you're going to Brown, but
Yep.
um and I know, these subjects of what we talk about on this show are important to you, as we've discussed through text and a lot of phone calls and different stuff and correspondence. But what what are some things that you do to keep yourself into that area? Because I know you have a big affection, and obviously the Navy's a family business with your mother being a veteran and you yourself too.
Yeah. So I guess let me start by saying, like, when it comes to when I joined the Navy, I my mom was in the Navy, but it was back in the time where if you got pregnant as a single woman, you can get out. So she was in for a little bit. She got pregnant with me. She got out, and I didn't really know much about the military. Um, it was one of those places that I never saw myself being in.
Right.
But the best part about being in the military is, you meet people from around the world.
That's right.
And I don't know if this is going to answer your question, but I'm just going to go on a little tangent. But and this is the first time I met people from Texas, from Alaska, Montana, Virginia. This all these different types of people, and so that was eye opening. But I was in the nuclear school, and it's high dropout rate because we're learning about nuclear reactors, fission, thermodynamics, calculus, and a lot of stuff that's pretty challenging and put a lot of stress on you. And you're in there at, PTing in the morning at 6 a.m. and you're studying up until 9, 10, 11 p.m. every day. And I think that was the first time I kind of like got a sense of mental health and like how that really affects people. And there was some times, man, where, people ask for help. And at the time, you know, the military, it's changed a lot, but at the time, they're like, well, just suck it up.
Mm,
Just suck it up. And, you know, it's the military, so you kind of expect that to an extent, but there is this, I mean, there are some points where like dudes were doing things like cutting their own wrists
right.
at our training command and like sitting there and just asking for help. Like, if you don't help me, I will make it so you will help me. Or I saw a lot of destructive behaviors, like, I don't know what to do. Let's just go drink.
Right.
Like, bro, we drink every day. It's 1 p.m. on a Tuesday. We have to go back to work. Like, well, we could polish off like 6 or 7 beers real quick, or buying the motorcycles,
Mm,
out trying to outrace the cops. And so I started seeing that, and I started seeing like the we're all the 18 to 21-year-old age when we start this, and they never really talked to us about healthy coping mechanisms. And I think that's a big portion where um, I think if not even the military, but if corporations, if organizations, even schools talk to you about like, hey, it's not just, everyone has stress in their life all the time.
right.
But when you don't know how to handle it, when you don't know how to define that vice, that can really be destructive. So some people's vice are, working out. And, that could be healthy, but at the same time, it gets pretty extreme. Some
Facts.
people, adrenaline junkies, they like to go buy motorcycles, jump out of planes, stuff I wouldn't do, but it's all within moderation. And then it just got exponentially worse when I got to the submarine because I liked it. You go underwater, you're away from the world. Like, you don't know anything that's going on. For example, when Kobe Bryant died, I had no clue until I came back. I still
Wow.
don't even understand how big it affected the world because that's what I read. Or like when COVID happened, I was just underwater. I get this essentially email, and it said that there's a disease that was found in China, spreading rapidly. I was sitting there, I was like, dang, I don't know what's gonna happen. And then lo and behold, I come back, the entire world shut down. Well,
Yeah.
except for Florida, because they reopened like soon after. But
Yeah, they
that
roll a little different down in Florida, man. I got relatives
man,
down there. They just be like, "Hey, we're gonna do whatever we want to," and you go, "Okay, Florida, you do your thing. All right."
yeah,
But no, you're
but
right. Yeah,
wow,
that's crazy because you're right. That was that January, and then boom, right after that was when everything hit, and you was underwater that whole time.
I was underwater. We got extended and everything like that, so things weren't going well. And it's interesting because the longer I live, and I feel like I'm an old man at this point, but I still got a lot of life to live, even though I found a white hair the other day before I got my hair cut. Um, but the longer I live, the more I realize that the things that we go through is nothing we're doing is the first time, and
Uh
that's
huh.
one of the things I try to live by. And as you get older, you kind of like get into mentorship roles. So like in the Navy, we have something called CPUPs, so your
Hmm.
mentees. So I would have my CPUP come up and be like, "Hey, Wise, you know, my girl left me, or I walked in and she was with another man, or I lost all my money, and a lot of things suck. Life sucks, no
Yes.
matter who you are. The richest of the rich have issues. The poor have issues. Man, woman, doesn't matter your religion, your race. Like, we all go through things, and to me, it's kind of the beauty of life because we're able to have those lows so that we can appreciate the highs.
You are right about that, my friend. You are right, and it's so much easier said than done. But I know, you go through your own things, and we all go through our own things. But it's so much easier said than done. But it's not funny, but it's so fitting that you spoke on the subject of mental health, the stressors, and stress isn't always bad. Like, we need stress to a certain extent. Like, astronauts come back from space and they haven't been near any kind of stress on their joints and they can't walk. right? Because there's
Right.
been no minor fractures, and as we walk, we, to grow we must suffer, kind of thing. But you talked about the coping mechanisms, and people just don't know what they don't know, and that's a big. I'm so glad you hit on that within like the first 15 minutes of our talk, because so many people are lacking. They just don't know. So I've said this publicly a lot of times. For our young ones, if they're in the barracks or wherever, they if all you know as an outlet or a vice is get effed up, Pornhub and video game. When somebody tells you work hard, play hard, all you're gonna do is Pornhub, video game, and get effed up, right?
Right.
And they're into pertaining. But also, you spoke on money and relationships. And I sit on boards that we have to review um, cases where people take their own lives, and we have to go through the fine new details and see like what led to this, right? Not like a judgment or casting stones or any of that nature, but to try to understand what led this person. And it's usually just not out for no reason, right? It
Right.
Relationships is the number one cause, man. It's like they get dumped, they get drunk, and they have access to some type of lethal means, which usually is a weapon. And you can survive jumping off a bridge, you can survive ingesting pills, you can survive maybe in some type of fixation, but you're 9 times out of 10, probably 9,999,999 times out of 10, not going to survive a round to your head. And
Right.
that's usually what people do. So I know I kind of digressed there for a little bit, but just in that first little segment, you're talking about mental wellness and things, and mental health, and there's relationships, there's coping mechanisms, and there's money right there on the table.
And just with relationships, I mean, that's why I feel like it's so important to have some kind of mentor in your life. And it doesn't have to be like if you're in the military, it doesn't have to be someone in the military. It
Facts.
doesn't have to be someone of your same gender, not even someone of your same religious background. Like I mentor people who never been in the military or just had a completely different walk of life. I have the students that come up, the 18-year-olds. This one kid came up to me, I'll never forget it. He found out I was a veteran. He's like, "Oh, that's so cool. Like I've never met a veteran. So do you have PTSD?"
That
And
was the
he
opening. Like, oh,
that
snap!
yeah, he said
So you
that.
like the color blue and PTSD, right?
And I just kind of laughed because he had just never been around a veteran. And so like to a lot of people that might be kind of offensive, but I was like, I can open up and kind of tell you about my perspective because a lot of people haven't met someone like you or haven't had the opportunity to go overseas or meet, there's some places where you don't even meet someone outside of like a religious sector
Mm,
or a racial sector.
it's facts.
So getting a mentor who does not act like you, think like you, look like you, grow up like you can be really, really vital in those low moments because it gives you a different perspective.
For
And
sure.
that's one of like, I think a great thing. Like when you get really, really low, I, I don't want to just keep spitting some things I think about, but at my lowest of my low, so I got the mentorship and I know some other guests have said this before, but like volunteering, but to a certain extent, like even just leaning on friends. So
Yes.
I, I'll talk to a friend from high school, and I have talked to them all the time because they're always hyping me up. They're like, "Man, if I would have thought, in Spanish class you'd be where you are now, I would have never. But you always had that in you." And I don't know if they're gassing me up, whatever, but I'm always about it because
It's
afterwards
positive.
I'm
I'll
like,
take it.
"Yeah, exactly,
It's fuel for the tank.
exactly."
No, it's good. It's good to be. I think I think we all need that, and then we all need to show that as well. Like obviously, what is it? I think Epictetus had said that never depend on outside approval for
Right,
your own. But look, we're human beings. We love to be accepted, but at the same time, gratitude works both ways. So for you to acknowledge it to somebody else, or somebody to acknowledge it to you, like people don't get the roses while they can still smell them. That's the truth, right? But after something happens to somebody, or something bad happens, or they're not around no more, then we're like, oh my God, man, Taryn was the man, dude. He was. Why not tell Taryn that now? And it does literally make you feel better when you give, you receive. So it's healthy. I think it's healthy. Now, if somebody doesn't compliment you, you shouldn't be all down in the dumps because nobody complimented me, right? Um, yeah, never depend on outside merit. That's what he said. Never depend on outside merit. There's no strength in it. However, it does feel good when somebody tells you something nice, and that it's genuine and that it's real, and then it's coming from a place of knowing you and going, wow, man, check you out, dog. Like that's good, and I think more of us need to do that to others.
right. I agree with that. And sometimes just so I'll share a story. So probably about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I got a call on my birthday. Me and my mom, my little brother, we're out to eat at Chili's. I've been going to Chili's almost religiously every single year. Why Chili's? Because when I was 6, my mom had it, and she had that little come out with the fajitas.
Ah,
And for some reason, that just it just clicked with me. So like every year, we would go to Chili's. And this particular year, a couple years ago, we get a phone call, and my grandmother wasn't doing well, and she's the one that she raised me a lot to an extent. I was her best friend. We went to DC together. We'd always get into philosophical talks. Great relationship. She wasn't doing the best, and we get the phone call that she had passed. But it wasn't that like she had passed. Like she had been like the situation of how she passed was horrific, and like they found her body like deteriorated for 6 weeks, and like it was probably the toughest thing that I've ever had to deal with in my entire life. And the when you're in those lows, like no one can tell you like it's gonna be okay because you're not gonna listen.
right,
You just lost someone close to you, especially depending on the circumstances, and you know. But then one, it took me a long time to really acknowledge, because death it happens to us all, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're able to deal with it
correct.
in a healthy way all the time. But when you acknowledged it, and eventually I was like, I'm snapping on my friends, I'm being short with people. It took me over a year to kind of recognize like I need to do something to deal with this because, if my grandmother was here right now, would she want me to act the way I am? No. Should I do my friends deserve me acting this way towards them? No.
Hmm.
Because life's way too short, because while I'm over here not being able to accept this vulnerability of mine to seek some kind of help, who knows what would happen to a friend. And I would hate if I was talking to a friend and I cussed them out or I was rude to them and then all of a sudden they're not here anymore.
Right, right, right. Yeah, you got to think about that. That's real, and you might be
Yeah,
going through. What you're obviously going through is real, and I'm so sorry for your loss, and God rest your grandmother's soul. Um, but you don't know what somebody else is going through at the same time, and they might not even know you're going through that, depending on the circumstance. And it just goes back to, and I know I always go back to it, but the Robin Williams, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. So be kind always. But as you said, this may be the last time, right? That you talk to that individual, and or who knows what you push them to because of the way you reacted, right? Because everybody's, you might think, oh, I'm keeping it real, and I'm gonna, keep it real, and I'm gonna say the truth, right? Dave Chappelle show, keeping it real goes wrong. But what if you're the difference maker in pushing that vulnerable person or that person in that weakened state to the point of making a permanent decision, as in hurting themselves or someone else? Like, you just don't know, because these things don't just
right,
happen. It's like adding up, like little things by little things, but little shit just doesn't happen. It adds
right,
up and builds. So that's a key point to think about. That even though you're in your, obviously, your time, um, to think about the others around you and how we actually treat them, because that might be the last time we actually talk to them.
right. And that's exactly why, this gratitude kind of came to my life. So like I will never, if I'm in a relationship, if my girlfriend and I get in a fight, I will not get off the phone without like trying to make some kind of resolution or trying to, I'll just send my mother just flowers because eventually one day she won't be here and I'll wish I had that opportunity.
Yeah,
Or even just telling my friends like, hey bro, you're doing great. I love you. It's just like those things like that a
yeah,
lot of people are like, why would you really have no idea how much time we have on the earth or how much we have with someone else or the next time you even see the person again.
it's facts, man. It's facts. It's like what they always joke and say. You're guaranteed taxes and death, but like you're definitely
Yeah,
guaranteed death. Some people ain't guaranteed taxes. If you don't, if you're working at a table, you might not have to worry about that, right?
it's true.
I'm not encouraging that. I'm just saying. I might know some people, but um, but you're definitely, we are all guaranteed that one, right? And for all I know, it's one time, but maybe there's another time. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, and I do know that that's going to happen to me, you, and everyone else that we love. And it's also why we should try to make the best of it while we can, not on like some fake motivational talk. But I heard recently, I forgot the gentleman's name, but he had said, I'm going to go for what I want to go for in this life and live the best life I can, because even the naysayers in 3 generations, they'll be dead, and so will I, and nobody will even remember anyway. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
True.
so Yodo, you only die once, to my knowledge so far. Maybe you live more. I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I'm not I'm not confident to say that it is or it's not. I just know while I'm here, let's try to make the best of it while we can, because we're here anyway. We might as well. And if it wasn't meant for us to be here, I feel like we wouldn't be here.
I think that's a good segue to one of the things I always think about. So I'm in school and I'm going to school for engineering. So I always try to keep things in a logical sense and then like a not as logical sense. So when I think I have an issue that's way too overwhelming and I'm the first person and all that, I think of the fact that there's been so many people that have lived before me, so many people
Mm,
that have had worse things that they had to go through. Like, I don't have to worry about hunting. I don't need to hunt a bear for my family. I don't
yeah,
need to, you know, be out there. Like, I'm in the United States. Like, that being in and of itself, like, there's so much
we got a lottery ticket right
security.
there. A lot of people
Right.
are like striving to get just where we are, like just how you wake up. Like your worst day is somebody else's dream, believe it or not, right? And
Exactly.
it really is. Or you think about, I quote him often, Dr. Viktor Frankl and the Holocaust, and just even the things that people are going on right now in Ukraine and other parts of the world and Gaza, and just
Yeah.
no matter how you feel about these things politically or what side or whatever, like there is some pain and trauma and tragedy going on as we speak. So that is definitely important to have that gratitude, to take that in, because there's nothing really new under the sun. There's more people
True.
and we have more way of showing what's going on in the world, but there's really nothing new under the sun. Like we just are a little bit more compelled, and we have a little bit more courage to express things. Like molestation and rape and all that shit has been going on forever within families, and nobody talked about it. Nobody said that uncle or auntie or whomever was a sicko. You just dealt with it and you just lived on. But now we say things, we speak on things, and there's obviously more people, so there's more cases, and then we have more way of explaining and expressing it via the technology that we're using right now. So
Right.
they're interpreting. I guess the point I'm trying to say is that I agree with you, and it's, to me, I think about Aziz Ansari, and where he said that, like, people are like, man, the shit's really hit the fan, and he's like, yeah, but like when you look at American history or world history, there's never really been a shitless fan. You know what I'm saying? It hasn't been, right? This too shall pass. I know that sounds cold, and I've had friends of mine that are like, you don't fucking know, like this too shall pass. Like, I get it. Like it's hard to hear when you're in those moments, right? And I've heard it and been like, shut the fuck up, or I'm mourning, or I'm grieving. I'm like, don't fucking tell me you know how I feel. You know what I mean? Like you're automatically on the
Right.
defense because you're still dealing with the tragedy of what's going on. But it does pass. All of this does. Like we're just dust in the wind, and at the end of the day, it's very finite the time we have here.
And we really are. I mean, I agree. When I'm going through something, I don't want to hear it from anybody.
Right.
But, when you think about it, the dust in the wind, like, so I'm a science guy. So I always like to think about like the science way. So there's been so many people that have lived on Earth. And this is just Earth. This is one small dot in the Milky Way galaxy. There's thousands of galaxies that we know of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Galaxies. And that's hundreds of thousands of planets surrounding stars. We don't even know. I mean, this can get into a little bit of religion, but like, we don't even know if there's other life out there. And
Right.
if so, like, humanity has been such, it's not even a blink of an eye
Yes.
compared to how much life or the universe is going on. So, no matter what happens to you, it's so insignificant in the grand scheme of everything.
It's sad to
We all,
say, but it's the
yeah,
truth. It's so true. You know what it reminds me of, man? Is you ever seen the picture where it's like the arrow pointing to like the Milky Way, and it's like there's you crying in the shower before work. You know what I'm saying? Because it is that there is a time to, like, as the Marcus Aurelius used to say, and I know he's a king and he got handed a pretty good life, but he still had to deal with it. Um, there's a time to focus and zoom in, right? But then there's also that time to do what you're alluding to, which is to zoom out and to realize, like, this is just right. Like, I think I heard recently on Divid, it's like the 5-5-5 rule. Like, is this thing going to matter in 5 hours, 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years? Like, is it going to matter? And that kind of brings you down, so that way you can little REBT and then some CBT to kind of not let your thoughts and feelings make you have shitty actions, because that
right.
happens a lot.
I agreed. And that picture you're talking about was actually a space probe that we sent out, and it turned back one final time before it we lost contact with it as it was leaving the solar system. And that in that one blue dot was every single person that's ever lived, and that's what I was saying. And it to me when I look at that, it just makes me feel like we're so small. So like what's it in this life, all we're gonna do is try to be there for other people. And so
Mm,
all our lives are trying to help each other out. And if we don't do that, then what's the point? Because the
right.
point is to be there for one another, to love, to experience life. At the end of the day, you know what I mean? An asteroid can come and end it. So what are we going to do now
Yeah.
to take advantage and take those experiences and make those relationships with people?
No, that's real, man. I actually, again, I'm going back to Viktor Frankl, but in there he had said that like basically the ultimate thing in life is love, right? And I look at like Ziggy Marley. I respect so many faiths. I got friends of all different faith backgrounds. The more I know, the more I know I don't know. So I'm not bold enough to say I'm right and somebody else is wrong. But I have friends and family of all different backgrounds and stuff, and from everything, right? And I'm never gonna be bold enough to say this person's wrong or that person's right or whatever. Like, but I think there's some beauty in all of the things that they bring forward. Um, but love, I feel like Ziggy Marley, like love is my religion. Like love, like we need it. I think it's ultimately the ultimate goal, as Viktor Frankl in the moments of duress and stress that he was in, like love. Like, and we
Yeah.
need more of it. And also to your point, and I know I've said this many times on the show before, but when I look at human history, humans have never been able to accomplish anything single handedly. Not one human has ever done anything single handedly. Like, I don't care what biblical story, I don't care what historical story, geology, theology, it doesn't matter. Humans need humans, right? And I think maybe sometimes it's kind of giving me a little clarity or serenity with some of the things that I've been through, or like why me or woe is me. Maybe the only reason you go through it is so that way you can help somebody else through it later on. Maybe that is it.
Right.
I don't know. And there's something bigger than us that just controls those things or puts us in these positions to where we have the choice to use it or lose it, or woe is me and hate the world and be bitter, or we could try to be better and maybe try to help somebody else through it, because it hits different when you say, I feel you. I've been there. And this is what I did. I'm not saying you have to do these exact things, but these are some of the things that can help maybe get you to a better place. I really do think that's what we're made for at the end of the day, because we obviously got survival down packed, right? We got that down packed so far until we don't. And then we'll have a different podcast for sure. Uh, but like, you're right. Like, you don't have to hunt for certain things. You don't have to do certain things. And there's a lady, Anna Lemke, Dr. Anna Lemke at Stanford. She wrote Dopamine Nation. I've talked about that on the show before, but if you're listening and you haven't heard about it, look it up. She's onto something, I think, because she speaks about that some people are just feeling underwhelmed in our times today. They're underwhelmed. Like, you can literally have all your human needs met by not leaving your house. We've never had that happen, nor have we had the amount of potency and high dosage of the dopamine things that we get in our lives now, whether it's through this right here, talking on devices like this, or granddaddy used to drink beer while he farmed. Granddaddy wasn't drinking for a local player. You know what I'm saying? Like, the dosages and potency is so much higher now. So
Yeah.
are people are people feeling underwhelmed, and we're not living out those things. So it's kind of important to have those struggles and to have challenges and to have a healthy amount of stress to make you grow and not atrophy.
Right. And I want to hit something you said earlier with the idea of love. And a lot of people hear love and they automatically think of like, finding a wife, finding a husband, finding a
Right.
romantic partner. That is not love. I mean, it can be a love. It can be a version of a love. But my mom used to always tell me, even when my first girlfriend and I broke up, I was 16 years old, heartbroken, heartbroken. And she told me, people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I'm pretty sure she got that from Tyler Perry from Medea
But hey, it
because I've
works.
heard it. But at the same time, there's a lot of truth in that because you can love someone, you can have no romantic interest in them, and just have a genuine love and care for someone. You'll have people that love you that you have no idea. People that look
Mm,
up at you. I had I've had people over this past summer and the summer before where I feel like I'm not really doing much, and I can get more to what I've been doing recently, but I've had some guys come up and be like, "Hey Taryn, I've been watching your stories, I've been watching your Instagram, I've been watching your LinkedIn, I've listened to your podcast. Like you you are the inspiration. You're the reason why I'm going back to school. You're the reason why I found hope to leave the military." Um, and this is just like for veterans. And then
right, right.
when it comes into the students at school with me, or even at community college, I had them be like, you know, your story, your struggles, the things that you shared, I've identified with. Rather it be, I am a minority, I'm biracial like you, or I also grew up homeless, or I also grew up poor, or I also grew up in a single parent household with just my mom. And they're like, I see myself in you, and I see your successes. I like it inspired me to want to do more. And you never know, because if you ask me, I don't think I'm successful yet. I'm still figuring it out.
That's right.
And I'm not a parent, but maybe you can attest to this. All my friends who are parents, they're all trying to figure it out. You
Still,
know, a couple years ago, we are just drinking beers and chilling. Now they're like, I have a kid. I don't know what to do. This is my first time. So we're all in this for the first time.
it is. And even then, like if you have multiple children, it's it's just as because every kid is different. You're different. Your circumstances are different. Like it's man, yeah, I'm still trying to fit foe on that one. That's why I don't try to I really don't try to cast stones unless you're like maliciously like unethical or hateful or trying to be hurtful to somebody. I try not to cast stones because I've been humbled so much. The second I usually think I got it all figured out, life has a way of humbling me. I think Anthony Hamilton has that a song like life has a way of humbling you down, and I've eaten my fair share of humble pie, and I'm still trying to fit foe figure it the fuck out every day. Oh man, but it is real though when you see someone that you can identify with that's been there, that's been through the struggle, and then that you have similar things in common with because it gives you hope, man, and we need that. Hope is it's currency and it's real. And I know people go, hope is like I used to always say it was like holding a pile of shit in your hand. You know what I mean? Like the pile of shit weighs more than the hope. I don't feel like that anymore. I really don't. I've grown to understand things and go through things to where sometimes you just need that. Like, well, I might not be the best at it, but if this person can do it, then maybe I can too. And then to have that representation on all levels. But even also to have it, like you said earlier, having those mentors and people you aspire to be like that aren't exactly like you because there's strength in the diversity. And then how did they attack from this angle to get whatever they are? And it's not just about stuff or status or anything like that, but like having a quality of life from we're all trying to figure this out, man. But I think unless you're like unethical, hateful, malicious, I think most people are just trying their best.
Right. And I mean, even just to keep going on that point, some of my mentors, I have them as my mentor because, one of my mentors, she's a professor at Yale. And I will never know what it's like to grow up in the STEM field as a woman. I just won't. But hearing about her stories and some of the stuff that she's had to go through, or some of the stories that I've had friends in other countries had to go through, like escaping, war and stuff, I will never, well, maybe, hopefully not for that one, but I will never really experience some of that stuff. And you get so much perspective because it's not just like a one track thing.
Correct.
That's applicable to so many other things in life. And the more you gain stories, the more you talk to people, the more you gain perspective, is the more you're becoming more well-rounded. You can make better decisions. You can, like, history always repeats itself, and you don't
Yes.
need to make the same decisions and same mistakes as someone who just did.
Facts, man. We learn from
Someone's already
history
lived
that we
it.
don't learn from history. I heard somebody say that and I laughed my ass off about it. It was like, we learn from history that we don't learn from history. But it gives you that understanding. And sometimes it's like you said, perspective. It's not so much about comparison because comparison is a thief of joy. I think it was Roosevelt or Thomas Jefferson or one of the smart presidents said that before. But comparison is the thief of joy. But it can also be the thief of healing because I
Mm,
sit here and I say, well, I didn't grow up as bad as you, and I compare my this to that. And a gentleman I had on the show wrote a book, summer 2009. Andrew Koval talked about his experience of losing his best friend in Afghanistan. But one of the things he says in there is like not to say like your trauma, my trauma. I didn't go to Iraq, I didn't go to Afghanistan, I didn't have this, I didn't escape, a war torn country, or I didn't have sexual assault in my life. Look, he said if it's a big deal to you, then it's a big deal, and that's all that matters. So if you don't deal with your shit will deal with you. I threw on the last part my own because I do believe in that, right? If you don't deal with
yeah.
your mess, but you can also get complacent in it, and then I feel like you can relapse. As we are talking earlier about Will Smith. I've talked about that before. That I really respect and admire him and his grind and his hard work and his effort, and I think he has a good heart. But and I know he's done some work on himself because he's explained it and he's explained his trauma and then overcoming things. But then we saw him, a hurt person, hurt somebody on a stage on the Oscars that night, and Chris Rock didn't deserve that. He's a good person too, but I think it's a clear indication of we have to stay on ourselves and stay in our routines of whatever is bringing us wellness to be a better version of ourselves. And if we kind of lapse, then we can become vulnerable to the point of making a bad decision. And I don't know. I think Brene Brown said this. If everyone is doing their best, her husband said this, but I like to assume so because it makes me feel better. You know what I mean? It just makes me feel better to think that people are really trying their best. But we're not. We're all fallible, right?
Yeah. I do feel like there's a change in the air. There's like a paradigm shift going on because people really didn't talk about mental health, like
No,
specifically in the military, but like in general in
hell no.
society.
It was you stop being a bitch. That's literally it.
Exactly.
Stop it. Don't be a bitch. Stop being soft.
Yeah.
Stop being weak. And some other things that we can say. I don't aim to offend, but I do aim to keep it real on here. But that's literally what it is. Stop being a bitch. Man up.
Right.
Man up. That's like suppress your emotions, right? Like what the civilian world calls OCD, we call attention to detail. And sometimes, suppressing our emotions and stuffing it all down inside, we call that maintaining military bearing sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
have for a long time. And a lot of men especially have. You just stifle it, stifle it, stifle it. The shit is going to go somewhere. And if you don't deal with it, it's going to deal with you or make you make a decision that you may not want to have made, but under the duress and the circumstances and it piling up, you never know.
Agreed. And that stress is gonna end up shortening your life. I mean,
That's facts too.
yeah.
That
But but Simone Biles, you know,
yeah,
she's been very outspoken about her mental health. Like she's literally an Olympian,
yeah.
and she's just winning left and right. And she fell off the beam yesterday or whatever, and lost her chance to get gold. And she acknowledged it. She's like, this girl, and I forget her name. She's from Brazil. She
The one
got
from
first. She's
Brazil,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. She's like, I got to give her flowers. Like
Yeah, that
she
was
was a
so
competitor.
cool. That was
Yeah,
so classy, man. Like, and it was both her and I forgot the other American's name, but they both
yep,
like kind of signified to her on both of this. That was
exactly.
so cool, man. Like, take the L, take the lesson, but at the same time, you ain't got to be bitter and be a hater. Like, that was so cool.
And that's what we should do in life. Like sometimes you try something, it doesn't work,
Nah,
and oh my gosh, it's like a relationship. All of us go through a relationship. Not all of us meet the love of our life the first time and
hell
stay
no.
married the entire life. So you're gonna have to go through a breakup. You're gonna have to like, what's your favorite color again? Like it just happens.
Yeah, it
But if you don't
does.
learn anything from it, you're just it's like the history repeating itself.
It doesn't. You also don't know what comes down the road. What's coming down the road. I've said this before, but it's worth saying again because I know not everybody listens to every single episode. But I recently got the opportunity and privilege to speak at a mental health symposium, and I have a mentor of mine who really laid stoicism on me at a young age, and it just changed everything for me. Mark, I love you. But I asked him when had this talk. I said, "Man, if you had the opportunity to speak to this group, because it was a group where we were actually stationed at, where he was my gunny and I was his corporal." And he saw me all up in my fields, and I was worried about shit I couldn't control. And he was like, "Circle of concern, circle of control," and just gave me Epictetus 101, right? And I had never known that shit, right? And so he told me, he said, "Tell him this, Cam. Tell him this from me." He said, "Marines need to be reminded, and this is for everybody. This isn't just Marines. This is all of us. Doesn't matter military background. This is all of us. But Marines need to be reminded that they are human. They are not machines. And as a human, they need connections, and they need to believe that it's okay to be fearful, and no matter how bad it gets, there are brighter days ahead." And underneath there, I put hashtag Gia because that's my youngest's name. And if I would have been successful in some of my attempts of suicide at certain times in my life years ago, 5, 7 years ago, that little girl's 3, I would have never known her. And it's the same with sometimes people have a divorce and maybe they have a blended family later on. And I know people are in the throes of it and I have no fucking idea what their pain is right now. But you never know that there may be a spouse later on down the road or a relationship later on down the road or a child later on down the road that you don't even know. So you know, don't there's brighter days ahead. You know what I mean?
Right.
Hard to accept in that moment of that struggle, of that relationship ending, of I can't imagine because I'm not going through it, right? So I'm not trying to downplay anybody's pain, but there, as he said right here, no matter how bad it gets, there are brighter days ahead, man. And as you said in history, we've seen that over and over and over again.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like the best thing you can do when you're going through something is to be in the emotions, but to just take small little steps. So my mom also told me so when I was in boot camp, and I will never forget. I was like, I can't do this. I failed the swim test, and
It's kind
as
of
a
important in the
sailor.
Navy. Yeah, you kind of need
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Well, I mean, on a submarine, I don't need to swim that much.
yeah.
But I remember talking to her, and then, I would just be so stressed. And she said, how do you, like, Taryn, how do you eat an elephant? And she was writing this. And I was like, how do you eat an elephant? Why would I want to eat an elephant? It's not
Elephants
like,
are nice. What is
oh,
this,
isn't that
dogma?
illegal? Like, what do you mean? And she's like, you eat it one bite at a time. And then, from there on, I eventually passed my swimming test. Um, nuclear power school. The hardest thing I had to do academically at the time. How do you eat an elephant? Everything is, you take little small bites because it's the worst that you've had in your life at the time,
Right.
but your life's still going. So, you know, because when you're a kid, when you're, 1 or 2 years old, you fall, you get hurt. It is the worst thing that's ever happened to your life at the time.
Literally is though. That's the worst day of your life. Is the worst. The worst day of your life is the worst day of your life. It really is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then it keeps going,
Yeah.
and you find, some new love, some new hope in the day. And I will say, and this is not for everybody, and I'll be very conscious of that. But I took a class at Brown. Granted, my school is a little bit more liberal with their education, so I got to take a class on Zen.
Right.
And so 3 days a week we meditated. And man, I tell you what, that was not something I could ever see myself doing. But sometimes just you don't even have to sit. Sometimes you can, walk and meditate. Or when I just left DC and I'd be on the subway and I would just sit there and just try to clear your head and just try to be in the moment. And that can do a lot of wonders. And there's a lot of people online that could teach you how to do that. And it's not necessarily religious. A lot of people associate it with religion. It can be religious,
Right.
um, but you don't, you know, sometimes choosing other methods, because there's a reason why meditation is something that's so well known, and that all these religions tend to have, some call it prayer, some call it meditation, some call it, Zen. And there's a reason why everyone, like, there's a lot of similarities between cultures or religions because it helps with a lot of people. And so sometimes you got to try things when you feel stressed out to, help get something from new perspective.
It is. It just reminds me. I always quote her. But it's the reason why I even started this podcast. But if you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, shut the. No, she said, change your attitude. Dr. Maya Angelou, right? Talk about somebody who went through some struggles in life. Raped as a child, and just all of the hate and discontent she got. And now we look at her like a hero. I'm saying she's the hero, but at the time she was not a popular figure, and the things that she was expressing, especially as a woman and of her background. But if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. That to me is like leadership 101. That's how we evolve. That's how we progress as a human species, as Americans, as people, as humans. So yeah, why not try it? Like it's funny how we evolve and we grow, because when I was younger, I'd always be seeking perfection, and I'm like, ah, fuck it, I didn't fix everything. This sucks, and then I think I tried therapy like 4 times. I tried different medications like 3 or 4 times, and every time I was like, this fucking sucks. It's not working. I'm done. And I threw the baby out with the bathwater, right? And the same with sobriety too. I was like, it's just a maturity thing. I can do this again in moderation. For some people like me, moderation is a myth when it comes to certain things, right? I don't do
Right.
anything half-ass, to include substances. But whole point being that sometimes you got to switch things up. And then also is so much as to say, somebody probably heard you and was like, fucking meditate, get the fuck out of here, right? Well, A, it may not make anything worse. And B, maybe it's not for you. Maybe Taryn just shared that so you can share it with someone else if it's not for you at all, right? But I guarantee you meditating is probably not going to make anything worse in your life. And that's kind of, I feel like we need to filter things through that. Like, is it going to make anything worse? Nah, fuck it. Okay, I'll try it. I'm game, right? Because we're such seekers of perfection. And I think you end up like a puppy dog on the floor chasing your tail. You're just going around in circles because there's
Right.
nothing that's perfect. Nothing.
And I think sometimes, if it's not for you, maybe it's not for you at the time.
That's
Like if
all
I tried to
facts.
meditate when I was 23, like that would not have worked for me. Or, at the time of the video games. And, everything in moderation though, because I feel like even if you meditate too much, I feel like there's like a limit. But
Yeah. Yeah. No,
and
that's for sure.
yeah, and then there's a lot of people, and you touched on this earlier about comparison. And I was one of those people. When I was in the military, when I was in E1 in boot camp, I was like, oh, I can't wait to get out It'd be like the E3s that are yelling at us,
Ah,
and and they were other,
yeah,
E3 is not that big of a jump from E1, and they weren't like our drill instructors or anything like that. But I was like, I'm gonna get the respect. I'm gonna
that's
be
right.
just like them. I got E3, and then it's like, oh, the E5s, E6.
That's
They
right.
have life figured out. They've been to the fleet. They've got their warfare designation. And then when I became an E5, and I was like looking at the E6, and it was always, and then when I became an E6, I was like, none of us know what's, and then I said this earlier, like none of us know what's going on, and
Nah,
you know,
just
and
trying
I
to
looked at
figure
the
it out.
officers, and the officers were like having, they had everything together, and now that I'm in school and I'm helping to train some of the officers, I'm like, we're all putting on the pants the exact same way, from the 4-star admiral to the seaman recruit.
It's facts, and the real ones will admit that. And we obviously got to respect. There's a chain of command, there's a hierarchy in all organizations, businesses. We're
Right.
tribal. We have a totem pole in everything that we do. However, you can't say I'll be happy fill in the blank when, because it might not ever come, and you might just be that little puppy on the floor chasing your tail. And I've definitely been there, or I've been there to where in certain initiatives or trying to make things better, like such thing as this podcast, right? Like, I heard a general say it recently, like fail forward, like just fucking try it out, and then don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. And that doesn't mean we settle for less or be mediocre, but you got to start somewhere. So you can't say, well, I'm gonna be that leader, I'm gonna be that person when I got this degree, when I got this rank, when I got this title. Like, I think about what the great legendary LL Cool J said: "Man makes the money, money never makes the man," and that's obviously applicable to all genders and everybody. But that's how he rhymed it. Man makes the money, money never makes the man. So it's not about the title; it's about, are you living out the title? And you might as well start now, right? Like, you might, wherever you're at, like whatever you could do something. And I listen to, yep, I'm a nerd. I listen to a lot of Oprah and stuff like that, and Brene Brown and all these kind of stuff, for perspective and for a look. And I probably just turned off some listeners, and they're probably like, Cam's stupid. And I'm like, that's cool. But, even a broken clock is right twice a day. So whatever your opinion is, this might help. But she said, everybody's like, I got to find my purpose and my passion and all this. And right. And she said, look around you where you're at right now. There is some shit. There is a mess. There is, like Jordan Peterson, clean your fucking room. Like, or, Admiral McCraven, make your fucking bed. Like, there is something around you right now that could be your purpose and your passion. And it might be as lowly as street sweeper, but like Dr. King said, sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures. That might be your purpose today. That might be your passion today. But to sit here and be like, well, I'll be passionate and enthusiastic about stuff like when the thing that, no, that doesn't work like that. It doesn't fucking work like that, in my opinion. I've never seen it work like that. So you got to kind of make do with where you're at, and then fail forward and refine. And then, things get better or things go to ever. But don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough, or I'll be happy fill in the blank. It ain't coming.
Right.
It ain't
You
coming.
know, it's this might be the nerdy side of me coming out, but one thing I love is the concept of time.
Mm,
And you could talk about space and time and like bending and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of science behind it, but is one thing I was thinking about. So when I got out of the military, I served 8 years in the Navy and submarines. I was told like, well, from first of all, for everybody that's in the military, they're always telling you don't get out of the military. Why would you ever leave the military? And they're telling you about how you're just not going to be able to get out, blah 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 blah. Pretty much everybody who's in the military have never been out of the military. So
ooh,
it's
that's
hard for them
true.
to tell you what to do because they don't know.
That's
So you're
facts.
taking advice from people but with the time, like, it's like, do I go back to school? I want to be the old dude. But then I was like, you know what? I could be 50-year-old with a degree, or I could be 50-year-old without a degree.
Ah,
Regardless, I'm still turning 50.
yes, yes, that's facts, man. Dr. Edith Eger, you ever heard of her? She has a book called The
No.
Choice, and she has a book called The Chance, but she survived Auschwitz, and she says that exact same thing. She was thinking about, she was helping war veterans after Vietnam, and she was like a counselor, and she was thinking about going to get her doctorates, and she was, or PhD, and she was like, yeah, she was talking to a mentor of hers, and the mentor, she was like, but I'll be 50 by the time I get my, certifications and become a doctor. He's like, you're gonna be 50 anyway. You might as well be a doctor. And she's Dr. Edith Eger all these years later, and has helped all these great people with PTSD, and just obviously very credible individual. But yeah, Edith Eger. If anybody out there looking for something good, a story, a perspective, Dr. Edith Eger, she's amazing. She's one of my heroes, man. But she said exactly that. Like, I'm gonna be 50. It was literally the same age too. Like, I'm gonna be 50 anyway. I might as well be 50 with a degree, right? Because we only get one shot at this. Why not try to do to a friend of mine, Lieutenant named Matt. He always says EFP, extract full potential. Why not? Like why not? And why sell ourselves short? And why and these things that hold us back. Like haven't they taken enough? Haven't these people taken enough? Haven't these experiences taken enough? Right? And one thing that's funny too about what you're saying, I love it. I love pointing it out, but it's only in our jargon, only in our language. Only inmates, zoo animals, and military members say get out. Like
Yeah.
nobody transitions from Costco to fucking Target and is like, yo, bro, I'm getting out soon. You getting out? When'd you get out? Only inmates, zoo animals, and military members say get out. I love it.
I've heard you say that on a podcast in the past, and I consciously try to change my perspective and narrative, but I can't. That's
No,
like
we
one thing
just
I
they
can't.
say get out. It's like I transitioned from X. Nah, I got out, man. I got the fuck out.
Yep. How much were you in? 8 years.
Yeah,
Man.
that was a bid, bro. You know what I mean? It's so
Yeah.
funny. We're so institutionalized. It's hilarious, man. We gotta laugh at ourselves. And then you haven't done the veteran thing yet, which is usually they grow out a Civil War beard afterwards, so that's cool. And I'm seeing your face, so people can't see your face, but I don't know what is up with these like Frederick Douglass, like fucking Ulysses S. Grant, fucking beards that's going on right now with all of our fellow veterans. Like you gotta wear like a 5.11 pants with cargo. If your pants don't have cargo pockets, you're not cool. If you don't have some form of American flag on some type of attire and a fucking beard, like I don't know if you really serve, bro.
I will say maybe I'm not like the rest of them, but I can acknowledge I was a vet, but I cannot have that same vet card. Like you will not see me telling you over and over about, oh, this one time I was overseas and I'm not that type of guy because I feel like, and maybe I'm in the minority, your identity, especially for veterans, should be more than just being a vet
Got
because
to,
it's like the people in high school when you graduate, like you have to find purpose in life and something else besides being in the military.
got to.
Otherwise, why are you out? Like you could still be serving.
Yeah, it's facts, man. What always reminds me, I've said it before, Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, right? Like the uncle who's like, you're really just mooching off your grandma. You might have been a decent quarterback, but you're not throwing that ball, and you're just over here mooching off a meal. Like there's a lot of us, and I even heard, and I talked about this in the last episode. I saw Sergeant Dakota Meyer, a Medal of Honor recipient, say this shit. And he was like, he doesn't even wear his Medal of Honor except for at funerals and actual like military balls and stuff like that because he does not want that one moment to define who he is for the rest of his life. He's like, that's where I was. That's who I was that one day, right? And then he kind of took a turn for the worst in life. And he said, Jocko, love Jocko Mustang, just the president of the Mustang Association that's in my head is Jocko Willnick. But he told him, he said, Dakota, you a warrior? And he said, yeah, I'm a warrior. And he said, nah, you were a warrior. Now you're just an alcoholic that uses, your experience base as an excuse to be a piece of shit. I'm paraphrasing, but to check him like that, some of us need to be checked like that. And yeah, I mean, you served. It's something to not be ashamed of. It's something to obviously to lean on your experience, and it makes us a better people. And obviously the benefits and the people we meet and all of that good stuff, but it can't define you for the rest of your life. Just like it can't define you if you were like the high school, superstar or,
Right.
the homecoming king or queen or like you can't just be that for the rest of your life, bro. Like you got to continue to define yourself. And I think a lot of our veterans lose themselves in that because they don't find their next mission. And I'm taken away from Jocko right now, but he said it. You have to find your next mission. And I think service is such a part of us that is ingrained into what we do. So I think there's some like you need something to serve. It may not be full blown on like you're going to be a police officer or a public servant or policymaker or a legislator or a teacher or something like that, but there's got to be something that you're connected to that's bigger than you because it's become such a part of us while we're in and we're serving that constitution and serving each other. Like all the crazy war stories you ever read or heard of, most people weren't doing it for the heroic acts of what the cause of that particular conflict was. Most people are just trying to protect their brethren or their sister to the left and right. That's really what they're trying to do.
Right.
They're trying to come home alive. Because I'm praying for peace. I'm ready for war, but I'm praying for peace because war, no, it's bad. It's not good. If we could try to have diplomacy to avoid it, I'd say do that. But at the end of the day, we're fighting for each other. So I think we still need a sense of that, right? And if you find that in communal bonding with other vets, that's great. But there's a balance there. There's a certain line you cross to where you can kind of be living in the past in the wrong way, and it might not serve you as best as if you could just kind of redefine yourself or find something new to serve. So in saying that, what are some ways now, since you've been out, since you got out, you
Yeah.
did your bid, What are some ways that you're keeping your tank full? And I say tank, people go, "What you mean tank?" Right? And I was like, I got to clean this up because recently I heard a general. He was like, "We do windows." He was saying to the minuscule task, because that's how far we'll go to get things done. But then somebody after the talk was like, "So do you mean like Microsoft Windows or?" So let me just be clear. When I say tank, I'm saying our tank of our fuel in our bodies, a metaphor to like our cars, because we never drive our cars till they run out of gas on purpose, to where we're on the roadside broken down. But too often, as humans and as veterans, especially, we will run our tanks, our human tanks, until we're on empty, and now it's an emergency. So, what is some things that you're doing now to keep your tank full, brother?
Well, I feel like I'm gonna be like every person at like the all hands call. I'm gonna answer that by going around
Yeah,
and
please do.
saying, a big thing in the veteran community that I feel like people need to be more aware of is everyone thinks that, when you're about to get out of the military, become a civilian again, you're ready, you're prepared, you're going to do it. And then everyone gets slapped in the face when you get out because you haven't been a civilian 4 years, 2 years, 20 years, 30 years. So you'll never fully be prepared what it's like again. But I really, really think people need to reflect on who they are because your time in the service is over. Now it's a chance to find something new. And I think it was like a Winnie the Pooh or something like that that was like, you know, my purpose is over, and it's kind of exciting because that means there's new opportunities. And that was not a direct quote. And I haven't read Winnie the Pooh in a long time, but I think that's like a big thing. And for me, I love the idea of learning. Love learning. So I went back to school, and it's not the easiest choice, right? A lot of people are like, why would I go back to school? But and I guess I can kind of talk about this too. There's so many people have gone through what you've gone through. There's so many opportunities. So let's talk about, you're trying to find a way to find clarity after service. Veterans Yoga Project, where they literally have veterans and they'll lead you through different yoga practices, and this is throughout the country, or
Do they
red,
have
white, and
virtual?
blue.
Do they have virtual?
I think they are
So
as well.
veterans yoga,
Project.
veterans yoga project. Remember that, y'all. VYP. And maybe not for you
Yep.
because you may not be affiliated with military, but maybe you could share it with a friend because we all know somebody, right? Veterans yoga project.
Yoga.
Okay.
Yep.
Tangible
And then
tools.
there's the roaming vet. I just discovered her. She gets groups together and they just go travel.
That's cool, man.
So I feel like most of the things that happen are from Marines, which I feel is kind of a certain way. Like how come the Navy isn't doing more? The Marines are always out doing stuff, which
David
which is good
Goggins
for
out there
them.
running like a motherfucker. Jocko telling
um,
people they gotta own it and shit. So yeah, Navy repping.
that's true. That's true. I'm trying to think. Veterans Adventure Group. That's another one. And they so like I got a buddy. He went and climbed Mount Hood or Mount Rainier or Denali, and if there is something that you've always wanted to try or something that you want to find, you know, you really love nature. There's groups out there to help you get into that position to really discover who you are and find your identity outside of that. And with that, a little bit with my journey too, I went back into school, and I will have to shout out a couple of organizations, Service to School, and I've worked with them now as a mentor, but they help you, with college admissions. So writing your personal statement, figuring out which school to go to. Because I will tell you, this might sound hypocritical because I go to an Ivy League school, but an Ivy League school is not for everyone. Like, my school is not the best for multiple things. Like, if I want to be, uh, I can't even think of it. If I want to be I don't want to offend my school, but if I want to be like a history professor one day, maybe Brown's not the best. And
Right.
there's so many good schools out there. So service to school, and then there's this thing, and I worked with them too, called Warrior Scholar Project. It's like an academic boot camp. So I'm just throwing a whole bunch of
No,
resources
I
at
love
you,
it. And
but
so where scholar, so you said like boot camp, because I would never be where I'm at if that mentor of mine that I told you about earlier, he put me
yeah,
onto MASP when I was, man, I barely got in with my ASVAB and how I had GED, but he told me to go to MASP, and it was called Military Academic Skills Program. And we went to like a 3 week condensed course. I was on active duty because I was thinking about getting out or I didn't know what to do.
right.
So he said, why not plus up your ASVAB score and see what you can qualify for? I would have never been able to be where I'm at now had I not done what he told me to do, to go to what sounds like the Warrior Scholar Project, where you do like a prep course. Is that what is that something right? And then it allowed me to retake my ASVAB and then qualify on the ACT because I never took SAT. I only finished the eighth grade. So these little things can add up to other things that will open up doors of opportunity later on. So Warrior Scholar Project is the am I tracking the right way on that one? I'm sharing MASP too for
Yep.
anybody active duty. You can still look into MASP, Military Academic Skills Program. That's a very good program. Different bases and places run it differently, but it could be a good prep to get you confident and also competent enough to be able to get qualified to be able to take the next pursuit of growing.
I've never heard of that. I like that. But yeah, Warrior Scholar Project. So I actually served as a fellow last summer. It's a nonprofit, but we had a lot of active duty come in as well. The stipulation on Warrior Scholar Project is it's for enlisted veterans. Service to schools for officer and enlisted. You don't have to be active, or you don't have to be a veteran at that point. The Warrior Scholar Project, they have, yeah, a humanities boot camp, a STEM boot camp, and a business boot camp. So you go to different schools. So I did mine at the University of Arizona. I was there for 2 weeks. Food was paid for. Stayed in the dorms. I was there with a whole bunch of, I think, 10 other veterans. You know, Rangers, SEALs, CSs, and we were just like all together, and we had that experience of sharing what it was like to be in the military. And for me, being in the military is sometimes hard because I'm in the submarine. I have no idea what any of y'all do above the water. If it's happening above the water, you guys are all threats and targets. The only life I know is underwater. So it was good to to show that we're all there together. And so all of this to say, there's so many organizations out there that, um, let's say you want to be an entrepreneur. There's a organization I heard of recently called Dog Tag uh, Bakery, where they it's like another boot camp type of thing, and you open up like a bakery and they give you some funding. And I don't know all the details of that one,
Right, right.
but there's so many opportunities, and specifically for education, you earned a GI Bill, so why not use it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for
And
sure.
there's
Even if you
so
did give some
many.
of it to your
Yeah,
kids or something like that, you could still got some for yourself. Or don't you qualify for certain grants or certain things like that by just veteran status, right? In case you did
exactly.
use it for something else, and you don't want to use it for that. You also mentioned one, the Red, White, and Blue (RWB). I'm familiar with them. They're a good organization in my area. They get a lot of people together, all different backgrounds, and just a lot of fun. I mean, everything from like we carried the flag on the field to the Washington Commanders Thursday night game to like they do hikes, they do, I mean, just all of this stuff to where you can still keep that connectedness because that social cohesion is so important, right? So
Yeah,
don't hear us wrong, folks. Like we're saying, okay, you're a veteran, do away with it all, throw the baby out with the bathwater. No, we're just saying now you have to continue to grow, and I got to learn this too. You know what I mean? Continue to earn and continue to grow as a human, but don't forget about the network that could be within the veteran community because like it or not, we're all we got. We take care of each other. So I don't want anybody here is wrong there, right?
right. And even geography based. So I was in DC for this past summer, but Hill Vets is, I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
It's just people who not necessarily work on Capitol Hill, but vets who have gotten into Capitol Hill and like work on the Hill, and like they can be mentors, or like you just work in DC and you want to connect with other people. Like there's so many organizations to help you, whether it be interests, whether it be activities, whether it be geography of where you are. That in the overarching, I guess, theme here is, there's always someone that can help you. You don't have to do anything alone.
Yeah, that's definitely I think a point of contention for a lot of us, and I'll be honest, I'm guilty of it. And that's not to sound like I'm so tough. I just don't want to ask for help, but there's a lot of the people that even want to help, but we can't read minds. We can sit here all day and
Right.
say 988 and seek help and call somebody and call me bro or call me sis, whatever it is. But you still got to kind of be that person that does call somebody at 2 a.m. and say, I do need help. But the fact of the matter is, we all need help. And it's, as your shirt says, the audience can't see it right now, but it's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be okay. And sometimes we need help, man. And it could be from one of these organizations. One that I found a lot of, man, I found so much goodness in. Man, Miss Melissa, Miss Kristen, Katash, Miss Sarah, like, man, amazing people. But with the Armed Services Arts Partnership, ASAP, it is so cool, bro. Like from stand up workshops to stand up boot camps, stand up comedy, poetry, screenwriting, plays, just anything in the arts, right? It's all nonprofit and it's an organization. And shout out to a really good Demi Chang, she's a veteran, and she also went through there, and she put me onto ASAP. And I've learned a lot, and I connected with a lot of other service members through there. And it's not just service members; it's families, it's dependents, it's kids of heirs to brothers or sisters of a veteran or something like that. So ASAP, that is a very very healthy outlet to find self expression. We gotta have an outlet and a vice or whatever, or maybe it's some in some ways it could be somebody's future career. But ASAP, Armed Services Arts Partnership, good fucking people, man, doing good things.
I would like to also say with that, you know, not everybody wants to be with vets when they get out. And I tell all the people that come in, all the new students that come to Brown, like, you don't have to necessarily be a veteran. You don't have to wear that on your sleeve everywhere you go. Like, people here don't know I'm a vet. Um, I mean, they probably do now because I'm so outspoken about it. But I carry my fish, which is a submarine warfare qualification, on my backpack. But outside of that, like, I won't bring that up because sometimes it's good to, and this is kind of what I mentioned earlier, like, have your own identity.
Yeah,
Sometimes I'm tearing the vet. Sometimes I'm tearing the nerdy engineering student. Sometimes I'm tearing the dude who likes to play Minecraft. Some people call it code switching. I don't really call it code switching. It's just you got to know. Not everyone likes pets, and then it's not always the best time. But being able to find your identity, to be able to be like, I'm a veteran, but I'm also this,
yeah,
or I think that's a big thing. You're never going to get to that next level if you're always just comfortable with, all right, I did, even if you did 20, 30 years, you know, I'm, a sergeant major, and that's all I'm going to be. And I'm just going to sit here because it's comfortable. Sometimes you got to branch out and try something new because there's a book, it's called, I forgot the author, it's called Range. And it talks about people who, some of the greatest minds and the best people, think of Tiger Woods was the counterexample, but there's some other people like scientists who they are so good at that one thing, quantum theory, the arts. But what you don't know is they also have like a side thing to express themselves. And the author, and I'm only halfway through the book, but the author really talks about in order to become a better at what you are and what you do, sometimes you need to have other things to express yourself. And the more you have, so like for this physicist I was reading about, he's really good at saxophone.
mm,
And you would think they have nothing connected, but they really do. And it allows yourself to become a new person, to have a creative expression and a creative outlet because you can't just be, you know, my name is Dr. Ned, I'm the physicist, right? Because you're just going to fit into that narrow niche. But sometimes, same thing with the veteran, like sometimes you got to be able to express yourself and find yourself, whether it be cooking, that GI Bill can go to culinary school,
that's facts.
or yeah. So I think that's a big thing I've been learning the more time I've only been out of the military for 2 years, so this is all still pretty new to me as well.
We're all on a journey, bro. But
Exactly.
it's good that you're taking you can tell that you're mindful of the process of it and paying attention to the growth and the struggles in it, and it's just going to make you better, or maybe you make somebody else better. But I do think there's something about learning and growing, man. Like once we stop learning and growing, I do firmly believe that we're like plants, and once we stop growing we start dying. And
Yep.
it you can grow in a million different ways. It doesn't have to just be school. It could be a trade school. I got a friend of mine, man. He is an accomplished dude, veteran, just done some amazing things, and he wants to go to barber school. Like, and I was like, that makes mad sense. Like, you're good at talking to people, you got personality, he has attention to detail. What better to be a barber? Because some people's barbers are like their counselor, and you know what I mean.
Yep.
And it could be a very you can make a lot of money at being a barber, right? And if you enjoy it and you're interacting with people, like why not? Like, and it's also artistic, right? So there's just, I think when you just kind of you can't stagnate, man. Like we got to keep growing, and stagnation leads to degradation. A marine I know out in Japan said that, and he put it in the rhyme, and I was like, I got to get that neck tatted. But stagnation leads to degradation, right? But it reminds me of, like Bruce Lee said, running water never grows stale, right? So you got to keep
Mm.
flowing, and you might not know what exactly that thing is. That's why sometimes I share some of these things. I know it's pseudoscience, but whether it's the Enneagram or the Meyer Briggs type indicator, it's not a 100% accurate. We're all as unique as our QR code of our fingerprint. However, it can give you a decent idea of like, huh, what am I maybe more drawn to? People that are more like me, and maybe can give you a kind of pathway to a direction you want to take. Because I'll tell you, I'll be honest, until I took that 16personalities.com, I would have never had the courage to pursue the arts like I do now. Right? I was just like, that's soft, that's mushy. I'm not doing that. And now it's like my I love it, right? And it's kept me like comedy and stuff has saved my life in a lot of ways, or has made me live a better, more fulfilled life because I'm able to tap into that, right? And some people just, if you've never been fishing, you don't know if you like fishing, right? If you ain't never done poetry, you don't know if you like poetry. If you ain't never been to Brown University, you don't know if that could be the place for you to find and make many a dreams come
True.
true. So we don't know what we don't know, but to be a nihilist, or to be just totally negative and bitter and just like fuck that, I'm not trying that shit, fuck that, it's stupid, that's whatever. I think, man, come on, man, how's that working out for you? How's that mentality working out? How's that working out for you? Because I've done that before, and I've become a sad, bitter, miserable fuck, and nobody wants, that's just not fun for nobody.
Right. And I mean, this something else that I've kind of done, and I'll talk to that a little bit more. Is I had the opportunity in March to speak to Congress members. There's a legislation called Not Just a Numbers Act, and it looks at reclassifying how we give the number of service members uh, who uh, died by suicide. And so it's called Not Just a Numbers Act, and I had the opportunity. And this is a fellowship through the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars and Student Veterans of America. And, I was honored to have the opportunity. But a part of that was is really talking to people and hearing their stories. And, there, as a lot of people understand, like, you don't just wake up and decide, you know what, I'm just done with life and I'm
Correct.
just going to end it. Like, there's so many other things that go into it, rather financial or relationships, like we kind of said earlier. And sometimes you can find purpose by helping others out of their dark situations.
Yes.
Right. And with this fellowship, I called up some friends and I was like, hey, let's just talk real. Like, I went through this. Like, what did you go through? Like, we went through some stuff and we never talked about it. And you asked me the question earlier, and I'm just now realizing I never really answered. What keeps my tank full? Having those relationships with people, hitting that friend up that you haven't talked to in a couple of years, and be like, how you been? How's everything been? How's life? And not just the surface of like, what do you do for dinner? How are the kids? How's the dating been? Like really getting in there, because for me, when I build those relationships with people, and you know, I'm like, how have you been doing this? Like, how does that make you feel? How's your relationship? That gives me so much like strength, and it fills my tank. And practicing gratitude and even just checking up, because it's going to come back around.
Yes.
And all those people are, they appreciate it. I feel like I'm always the person that reaches out to my friends, I swear. And every time I tell my mom, I'm like, I'm not gonna talk to them anymore. Like, they don't care. And then she always tells me, like, some people just aren't gonna do that. Some people are just not gonna reach out to you the way you do. That doesn't mean you need to stop,
Yeah.
because you never know. I talked to a friend, real good friend from the boat. He he was about to end it all. He lost his wife, he lost his kids. He's going through divorce. He got kicked out of the military, and I talked to him, and he was super drunk when I talked to him, and I didn't know any of this was happening at the time. And it's just like, how have you been? We were going through reminiscing some fun stories. I was telling him about some things going on in my life, and a couple of days later, he's like, "Bro, I just want to let you know, if it wasn't for that talk, like, that was going to be the last thing we heard from me, because I just didn't see the point anymore." And you never know, like, and I know, like, these conversations keep circling around some things we said earlier, but being able to be there for other people, even when you don't know you are,
Mm.
can really, really impact, because people won't always tell you what they're going through, but sometimes just you being there for them, you asking them, how things are going, can really save someone's life, literally.
Literally, no, you're right. And man, it's such a sad truth that is so real like that for so many people, because people are fighting a battle you know nothing about, right? So be kind, And maybe I have a friend, mentor of mine, Miss Carrie. She recently said to me, you know, she gave me a compliment, and I told her, I said, I really needed that. Like, thank you. Right? It was very reassuring. The delivery, she had, I was getting a lot of hate, a lot of like whatever negative feedback, and she was like, nah, keep doing that or whatever it is. And like I said, you don't want to depend all on outside merit and things like that, but just that that one compliment, that one kind thing, that one, hey, how are you doing, checking in, it really helped me in a moment of where I was kind of like, not thinking so well, and I kind of can be an extremist in my thoughts, and I can be a downward spiraler, right? And one thing I've noticed, I can look back on myself when it comes to the subject of suicide. I would have never ever thought that I would have ever said that that was a good idea. And I was a father, I had kids, right? It was just, I let myself get to such a point of a downward spiral, and I isolated myself so much. And I tried to do this thing where like I shunned everybody, and I kind of like, and I'm
Yeah.
not like that naturally. Like, I need connection. I need what we're doing right now. I need that, right? Um, and I dismissed that, and I turned heavily to more alcohol, and in a few, you know, evenings of, I don't know, drunkenness or whatever, some bad decisions felt like good decisions, and some things went the way they did, and people get there, and it's not always because they want attention or they want to make everybody else hurt, or they want the pain to be over, man. And some people feel like a burden to other people, and
Yeah.
and and most people aren't seeking to kill themselves because they want to exit out or they're weak or anything like that. They just want the pain to be over, right? So when they're in that state of duress, there's obviously only one place to go, and that's, you got to have medical intervention at that moment. But prior to that is what I try to talk about on this show, because I think there's a lot of ways that we can stay ahead of that downward spiral by engaging in some of the things you described, by the cognitive behavioral therapy, like thoughts, feelings, and actions. They're very connected. They're very, very connected. And I'm not saying it's not all the case of CBT. There may be some medication that needs. I'm on fucking Prozac and have been for years. And last week I ran out, and I'm always preaching to people, stay ahead of your meds. And I thought I had another bottle, and then I fucking didn't. And holy shit, it was not fucking fun for anybody, right? It took me like 2 days to recover from just being off of meds for 2 days. Like, it was crazy. So I know, like, there's no reason to stop that shit now. But on top of that, I need to do these other things too. It can't just be the meds. It can't just be the yoga. It can't just be, it's like a wellness omelet type shit. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not going to be one size fits all, but we do need to have more compassion towards each other, because a lot of time, or not cast stones. I sat there in front of a senior leader recently, and they were like, I would never fucking do that. I could never fucking do that. And I'm like, you never say never, bro. Never say
Never say
that. You
never.
never know what circumstances may occur and what may put you in a predicament to where you might feel like, what, that's a good choice right now. So, never make a permanent solution, a permanent decision over a temporary problem. And as we've said, all of this is temporary. So how can we stay left of bang? Literally, people are like, oh, don't say bang. No fucking bang. Because that's literally what
Yeah.
happens to so many people, drunk aside, whatever. And they would have never done it in their right minds. But in that moment of either a really bad hangover or a lot of circumstances happening, that felt like a good choice. And that's unfortunate. I do feel like suicide is the only 1,000% preventable way of death. Everything else, I don't know. Right, health and circumstances and car accidents and tragedies and war and conflict and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think it's the one form of death that we can't prevent.
Yeah. And I think that even just talking about it and having these kind of conversations, because the word suicide creates so much anxiety or
Mm,
fear, or almost like we don't talk about that. Like it's worse to talk about someone feeling suicidal ideation than
mm,
it is to talk about politics or religion. You should, you know, still you should be able to talk about it openly with people,
yeah.
rather it be family, friends. Like if you're going through something, and this is also like it's like your health, your mental health. Like you don't just, not work out and then all of a sudden you're gonna wake up and you're like, oh, I gained 40 pounds. Like this is something you got to work on. Like
Yes.
be gracious with yourself. Be, what I always tell people to, you know, go up to someone and compliment them. And I don't mean like in a creepy way to like go up to some girl,
Hey, Taryn,
like,
your hair looks nice. I saw that one gray hair, bro. It looks nice. Just wanted to tell you that before you
whoa,
got the
whoa, you
haircut.
have to
No,
see
but
that.
you told me about it. You said it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You're
you
right.
were vulnerable and you had courage and shared it.
I did. Yep, my mortality's coming up to me.
Memento mori.
Um,
But it is facts though, man. To have a
yeah,
genuine compliment, like not just like, "Hey, good job, buddy." Like, okay, for what, motherfucker? Because there are those like supervisors that say that shit, and you're like, okay, that was a check in the box. You said that you gave, no, like really, like no, like Taryn, the way you said this or did that, that was awesome, man. And I appreciate you speaking to that the way you did, or you did that particular task, or hey, man, good shit on that one thing, like. That does matter, and people know when it's genuine. That's kind of where we are right now. We may be in a very desensitized time, but I think people can see genuine maybe more than ever before.
right. And I mean, even as simple as there's this dude that he had some really nice Jordans, and I came up, I was like, bro, I really like your Jordans. His face is lit up. Like, wait, really? Really? No one's told me I was having a bad day. Thanks, bro. Because I know when I'm just walking around and someone compliments me, I remember, I because it doesn't happen often. When someone compliments you, you remember that, especially if it's genuine.
Most definitely. See, I got scared though when you said it because people used to steal my shoes and shit in school. So I only had one pair of Jordans ever, and they got fucking taken and shit. And it just made me think like, oh, nice shoes, motherfucker. You know what I mean? It happens, right? But that's my experience. But yeah, no, seriously, there's nothing wrong with paying somebody a compliment or that gratitude, man, or just journaling,
Yeah,
dog. That shit, I know I talk about it to the point of nauseam. So people are like, damn, Cam, okay, get it, journal. But like, it's more than just like keeping notes in your phone, dude. There's something kinetic with that hand that if you have the ability of the capability to write, you know what I mean. Like, there's something that goes down right there. And a good writing prompt I learned was GGBBR, and that's write down something you're grateful for, write down something you did good today, write down something you did bad. How can you do it better? And then reflect. And usually it could just be one word of each of those things, or it could be a sentence. But usually it'll get your wheels turning, and then organically you might just vent because it's. Abraham Lincoln, I think when he died, when he was assassinated, they went into like his drawers and stuff, and he had these thing called hot letters where he had like relieved every fucking general ever in the Union, but he never sent the letter. He just was like, vented on that piece of paper to himself, and he never sent the letter. Obviously, some of them he relieved or whatever, but sometimes it's healthy to do that for all of us. It kind of gives us that opportunity to kind of zoom out a little bit and go, oh, all right, okay, it's gonna be okay. This isn't in the world. But when we sit there and we fucking ruminate and dwell and sulk, I don't think that's healthy. You gotta do something with it. You can still acknowledge it, right? Because there is a. We're not saying be naive and stuff it and suppress it. Acknowledge it, but there's a difference between acknowledging it and going okay, and then sulking and
right.
stirring the fucking pot of shit that just is gonna smell like more shit.
And journaling is not just writing things down. Like there's a lot of people that just journal and they draw, they
Yeah,
sketch, they
yeah,
write raps, they write poems, and that's a form of journaling too. And
for sure.
outside of that, like I really want to emphasize like sometimes just get in nature. As weird and holistic as that can sound sometimes, like if you can, not everyone can travel. Like you can't necessarily travel to a different country and find yourself there, but like just go walk. Just go take some time away from all the electronics, and we're so like dependent on it, and just really be one with nature. And I, I tell a lot of the dudes because they hate when I say this. I was like, bro, it could be manly to cry. Like, don't be
Yes.
afraid to cry just because you're a dude and you're macho and look at me, I bench 300 pounds or whatever. Like, you can cry. Allow yourself to feel the emotions. Otherwise, you'll never get your emotions out. And you don't want to be blowing up on people, punching holes in the walls. Like, you have to feel emotions in order to process things.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely guilty of that before. I've even cried while bench pressing before, but a whole nother story. But yeah, I literally like a thought came, but it is healthy because the shit's gonna go somewhere and it could eat you from the inside out, right? Because there's that factor too. But also I think I don't know if I can make sense of this. I've tried to explain it before, but that whole brick by brick thing, like these little moments in life, like that's life. It's not these hallmark, commencement speeches and graduations and when you got out or when the promotion was or whatever the thing was. It's these little moment to moment little things that add up the days of our lives and the moments of the life that we live. And I think sometimes that people they don't want to seek help because they think it's going to label or stigmatize them or whatever, but just think about some people, and it could even be ourselves. If you just dropped like maybe one medication or a therapy or a appreciation for getting out of nature or a yoga practice or a healthy outlet of some sort, a saxophone, whatever it may be, right? If they started this 30 years ago, who would they be now? So it's not necessarily to say like, oh, well, because I say that I think we have a lot of zombies walking around, right? Like
Yeah.
you're alive, but you're not really alive. You're not living to your full potential. And there's no time to start like now. So let's not think about yesterday. That's yesterday, but right now. But if you start it now with like these little tiny little things, like the moments of our lives, the second by second, the interaction by interaction, how much different could the wall be when you add up all those bricks? In the grand scheme of things. And I know there's a lot of people that just they get to a certain age or they get to a certain point in life and maybe you didn't live to your full potential, but there's no time like now to kind of switch some shit up, man. Like, just if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. And then there's all these resources, and there are really good meaning people that want to help. They just aren't mind readers. So you gotta like help me help you kind of thing. And don't make any one person a single point of failure. Oh, they didn't answer the phone, so now I'm going to end my life. No, try to call somebody else, right? Like, this organization sucks, so fuck all organizations. No, that's not the truth. That might have just been your experience with that one, and maybe maybe you've had a few rough goes at it, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Is what I'm trying to say, because I think we can sometimes seek perfection, and it can drive us insane, man. I make bad judgment calls. Am I making sense there with that whole little thing? I
Yeah.
just that little rant.
No, definitely. And I mean, it just reminds me of something that, you know, this may not be the best story, but there's one guy, he was one of my sailors. He came up to me, he's like, "Hey, I just want to end it. Like my wife just left me. Like I just crashed my brand new car, all of this." And I was like, "All right." He's like, "You can't convince me otherwise." And I was like, "Okay. Well, how about this? Why don't you give it a couple days? Why don't you like try doing this, connect to nature, or do this or this, try cooking." He's like, "Well, what's the point? It's not going to change anything." I was like, "Well, if you already made this idea and plan in your head, what's it going to hurt? Because if you've already decided it, then another day, another week is not going to push it off." So he'd be like, "Okay." So he'd come up to me, he'd be like, "Yeah, so I tried doing this and it didn't help." I was like, "Okay, try this." And we just kept doing this thing because he's like, "Well, this is stupid. This is stupid because I've already made the decision. Like, I'm already selling my stuff and all this." And I was like, "All right, well, if you've already made the decision, why not try this? It's not going to hurt. It's not going to change." So, and eventually he realized that, there's a lot of things in life that are bigger than the things he was going through, and sometimes the things that you try aren't going to work. Therapy does not work for everybody. I am one of that, one for those. Like sometimes you have to have a different therapist. Sometimes you like develop into those methods, but you just keep trying different things. Just because one thing's not working, like just because you don't like, coriander, maybe mix coriander with a little bit of cumin, a little bit of chili powder. Then all of a sudden, you got something.
Yeah, no, it's so true, and it's full circle to what you said, opening up with the resilience of being able to adapt and adjust, and that's just what we got to do. You just gotta Bruce Lee, be water, my friend. Easier said than done, listeners. Trust me, and I am such a hypocrite on so many days with all the shit I talk, um, and I don't back it up, right? But just try again, just buy more time, and allow yourself some decision space, and do your best to kind of, sometimes it's just, you said forest, you said outdoors. I was reading something recently. I think Jim Carrey had said depressed means sometimes you need deep rest, and the
Ooh,
forest is for rest, right? Like there's
I like that.
medicine, and maybe your therapy is not traditional talk therapy. Maybe your therapy is, you need to go box. You need to go be a boxer for a little while and spar with somebody, and that's your therapy for the day. Or your therapy is that walk or that hike or that connection with that friend. Maybe it's not always got to be medical or got to be some type of doctor or some type of medication. Those things can help, but they can't just be the only source, because look, man, we're like short medical providers, not only in the military and DOD and Department of Veteran Affairs, but as a nation, as a world right now. And there are other things and mechanisms and proactive measures we can take before we get to the point of no return. Obviously, we're at that point and we're expressing like straight up ideations, attempts. Okay, medical. But left of bang, there's some other things that we can do to kind of stay ahead of things if we give it a shot. And most people, like you said, the screens and stuff. I was talking about Anna Lemke. She said that when she was trained as a doctor in the 80s and 90s, um, this her approach was like, okay, so I'm gonna give you something like a SSRI to uptick things, and then we'll reassess. So this gentleman came to her. He was having crazy anxiety, crazy depression, and she asked him like, well, what do you do on a regular basis? And this guy said, basically, he looks at screens all day, whether it's work, he plays video games all the time, everything like that. And she said, okay, look, I want you, because she was seeing a change since 2008 with levels of anxiety and depression and things like that. And it's not to say, obviously, technology is all bad, because we wouldn't be able to have this right now. So it's a good thing,
Right.
right? Guns can defend freedom, but also kill children in schools because of a crazy person. So, right, we're not throwing the baby
Right.
out with the bathwater. But what she said was, do a 30-day fast of all screens and come back and see me. And the person came back and had given time to reset all dopamine levels, and he was like good. Like, obviously, if something bad happened, he was sad or something, or he was late for work, he should be anxious, because that's healthy in that situation. Police pull up behind you, everybody goes, oh shit, that's normal human. That doesn't mean you have a condition, right? But she saw, because of the dependency on dopamine in such potent forms, that this was all this person was doing, was, and it reset his levels by fasting on it. So then she's had she prescribed him a usage plan on how to delve back into screens, because obviously in our world we can't not have it. And that was his networks, that was his social network. So when he would play video games, he could only play them for 2 hours at a time, and if he played, it could only play on 2 days a week, and he could only do it with other people. So it was the social connection there, because video games could be a healthy, goal, just bonding with other
Right.
people, right? But what he was doing before was all the time, round the clock, playing with somebody he never knew, never met, whatever, but was addicted to it. So her whole point to it is, with this dopamine nation outlook, is that, are we all experiencing the levels of depression and irritability and anxiety that we think we are, and that we're clinically diagnosing people with? Or are we maybe having that, and we're also going through withdrawal all the time? And I was like, damn, because the potency is something that the human species hasn't, we haven't had. It doesn't matter if you believe in the Bible or whatever you believe in. Like, this shit is new, all of it, from the light bulb to like this devices to all of these things that are yearning for our attention all the time.
Right.
And back in the day, a bottle of liquor didn't ping you in your pocket like Instagram message can, or they're into pertaining. So we have to be very mindful of that. And that's what she was saying. A 30-day fast from screens is what fixed it for this individual. That's crazy.
Right. Right. And um, I'll also say, like, I am not an expert any means. I'm still working through everything too, but I hope, just like even being on your podcast and like telling people that it's I'm not just here to talk about suicidal ideation and suicide and stuff like that, but just mental health and being grateful for going through life, because we all only get one life.
That's it.
And I I don't think I've really done much in life. I'm still out there trying to do as much as I can, but I want other people to hear, and hopefully if they hear my story, that they can say, I identify with them, rather it be, even if you haven't gone through anything. And I think sometimes there's a lot of emphasis on, you're at the extreme. Like, let's deal with the extremes. Like, you're at the suicidal ideation.
You're
Like,
so right. You're so right.
there's so much before that. Like, you gotta consider. And yeah.
No, that's well said, and it's also, the comparison is the thief of joy, but also the thief of healing. And I think it's the thief of some of us reaching our full potential. Like, I think I heard Steph Curry, who I respect a whole lot. He's like my kid's favorite basketball player ever, and he was on the bandwagon before all the championships. But I heard Steph Curry say, because he grew up pretty well off, right? Both of his parents were professional athletes. His dad was Del Curry, right? And he had a good life, and he didn't have the same struggles that everyone else has, right? But what he was saying in this interview was like, everybody thinks you have to have this crazy backstory or this crazy trauma, and he's like, no, you don't. You could just like do your best at whatever's in front of you, the best that you can, and work your ass off and be a good person, and you might get somewhere. And sometimes you won't, because sometimes you don't. But then what, right? But then what? How do we respond to those? And maybe this is one of those times where you take an L, but not in the form of a loss, but a lesson. But it was, and some people go, "Oh, rich kid, look at him." No, he's still got to struggle. You think he did? He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's kind of a little pretty boy, so he gets fucked with all the time. And his dad was rich, so other people want his spot. And I don't think anybody gave him any preferential treatment. But he still had his own struggles. So hard is hard. And in the
Right.
same respect to what I told you that Andrew Koval had said in the book was, if it's a big deal to you, then it's a big deal, and that's all that matters. But I think comparison could be the thief of joy. It could be the thief of healing, and it could be the thief of you reaching your full potential because you're like, oh well, I didn't have the same harsh story as Terrence, so that means I don't know about what resilience is. Bullshit. That doesn't
Right.
know, because somebody could be well off and have this like family that comes, silver spoon, if you will, but we don't know that their uncle was a child molester or that their father was an alcoholic and was always married to his work and never was around. There's all those things too. So hard is hard. We don't need to be playing comparison game. If it's fucking you up and not making you the best version of yourself, you need to address it beforehand, before it gets to the point to what you're saying. And how can
Yep.
we, what the guy Matt talks about, extract full potential and live, do our best as best we can.
Completely agree. 100%.
And these are just some tools, folks. These are just some tangible tools. I just want to make sure I got them all, man, because these are great that you're sharing. The Veterans Yoga Group. You talked about RWB with Red, White, and Blue. Service to School. That's for officers and enlisted, those who got out. Warrior Scholar Project is a nonprofit, but it's mainly for enlisted. It's designed for enlisted people. Those that are aspiring to be entrepreneurs. The Dog Tag Bakery. Dog Tag Bakery. If you don't like something, you change it. If you can't change it, shut the fuck. I mean, change your attitude. Maybe you want to change some of these legislation and change some of these things and do more than just vote or talk shit and watch whatever your fucking think tank fucking echo chamber is of whatever news network you subscribe to. Maybe you could go to Hill Vets and maybe you could make a change and make a difference, or at least understand why things are as fucked up as they are. I don't know. But also, this man is not just talking this shit, y'all. He's actually helping to work on things that are influencing things like the Not Just the Numbers Act. Not Just the Numbers Act. So is that legislation? Is that going to be, is that a full bill yet? Or is that where is that at?
It, yeah, it's a full bill, and I hate to say this, but with Congress,
Yeah.
everything's kind of at a standstill right
Yeah.
now. So keep pushing things and keep voting for people and keep voicing your opinions to Congress because they're supposed to be working for us. So if you have a concern, so it's not passed yet,
Right.
but we hope for it to be should.
And could you break down a little bit just the end state of it? Like, so if this goes through, if it becomes legislation,
Yeah,
what's the end result? What's the takeaway, and why should we care about this? Not to say I
yeah,
don't. I'm just trying to make it explicit so people can understand what they might be looking up.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't say this earlier, but
No,
the
it's
Not Just
good.
a Number Act is so every year the Department of Veterans Affairs goes to Congress and they say we've had X number of veteran service members commit suicide, and that's just kind of like a number, and that's it. What the Not Just a Number Act really looks at and proposes is the Department of Veterans Affairs to take more data in. So, how many of them went to the VA Medical Center to seek mental health treatment? How many of them were utilizing the GI Bill? How many of them filed for disability? Like, there's so much more data than just, again, I woke up and I decided I just want to end everything. Like,
Correct.
there's so many stressors or indicators that would come into play. And the government realizes that we have an issue in the military population with this, is well aware, and they're throwing a lot of money at it, but it's not really doing much. So this would allow us to be like, all right, what's working, what's not? What can we do to change, how we're viewing mental health, how we're viewing suicide, and it gets a little bit more oversight so that when the Department of VA is looking at a service member, and this is going to be crazy to me or to possibly you because it was crazy to me. The VA has like two separate houses. You have like the healthcare and then you have like the VA benefits, and they don't talk, even though it's under the Department of VA. And that is something with the bureaucracy and government. I just don't understand how people don't talk, but that's how things get overlooked. So this would force the VA to like connect things more, to
Ah,
talk more,
yeah.
to and will it change anything like right away? No, but it gives us data. It gives us like a holistic picture of a person, so they aren't just a number. It's not just you know number blah 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 committed suicide today. It is this person. Here's what it was going through. What can we do to address this? Maybe it's because they kept seeking mental health um, appointments, but they weren't able to for 3 months.
Ah,
Why is that? Maybe it's because they weren't able to get a VA home loan. Why is that? Maybe they weren't able to get a disability claim. Like what there's so many things.
Right.
People don't just wake up and decide that.
No, they don't. They don't. I don't think that for a second, and not at all. You wouldn't have made it as far as you did if that's the case. So there's definitely variables and contributing factors, and it doesn't look the same for everybody. There's no black and white answer to any of these things. These are complex issues, and I hope everybody does have an opinion about it, but our opinions may be different of it. But to try something that could make it better, I will always support that because that's the way we'll learn or we fail forward. We see that, oh, yeah, we do this and we do that, right? But that's how we incrementally change things. And I get why our nation is the way it is. It sucks sometimes when you're like, why can't we just change everything and fix everything right now? Well, there's always secondary and tertiary effects of everything, like prohibition, right? Like they fucked around and made the mob in NASCAR. That's what happened, right? Like it was probably made with some great fucking intentions, right? But at the same time, what was the secondary and tertiary effects? And people were still drinking any fucking way. So, you know what I mean? There's always like there's a reason for our incremental change. It sucks as bureaucracy, but these are the games that we play. This is the rules of the game that we play. But I do think there are a lot of disingenuine people that could give a fuck less about somebody else. There's a lot of selfish, self-centered people that genuinely don't care, and they're of all walks of life, whether they're in the military, out of the military, Department of VA, lawmakers, teachers, fucking they work at Costco or fucking CVS, right? There's bad people in all things, right? But I also feel like there's also good people in all things. And I do think there's some very well-intentioned people. Well, fuck, I'm one of the well-intentioned people. I can tell you that fucking 100% that want to see things get better for people. And I know you are too, because we've had many conversations. And it's not just about making, like Kirk Bryan said this, right? It's not just about stopping people from dying. It's about giving them a life worth living.
Mm.
That's how we
Oh,
can
that's deep.
really be in prevention. It's not just
Yeah.
about let's stop people from dying. No, let's give them a reason to live. And I think some people we haven't tapped into that yet. I know I didn't for a long time. Um, and I thought I did in certain areas and I didn't. And I'm still fucking learning, man. But it's brick by brick. It's brick by brick, moment by moment. And you'll never get strong off of one workout. You'll never get good breath off of one teeth brushing session. Some people try it, it doesn't fucking go too well, right? Like it's gotta be consistent. Consistent. I think the guy Matt, he's always good at acronyms, but CAD, he said consistency, action, and discipline. And mental health is health, period. Secretary Austin said that. So it's fucking facts. Like it's mental health is health, period. Are we able to live our best life to extract our full potential to be our best selves? And if we're not, then we got to switch something up. We got to change something up and adjust. I mean, same thing with workouts. You could be a track person and running and hit workouts work for you. And I'm the type, I'm like, no, I like slow burn cardio and I like traditional lifting. But you're like, nah, I don't like lifting. I like going to the pool. End state is we are in shape, and it's got to be the same when it comes to our mental fitness. There's some metaphors there. That's all I'm saying. But I think it's the same with our social fitness, with our mental fitness. Like, find your tribe. Humans need Sebastian Younger. Humans need humans. I don't give a fuck if you're an introvert. Humans need humans. So don't suffer in silence. Don't put yourself in a silo. Reach out for help, man. We can't read fucking minds. But I hope that the efforts that you're making, man, are going to. I know it is. Even just the aspiration to do it and the example that people will hear from this and see makes a difference. It really does. And again, our egos always want the Million Man March of Dr. King. I love him. God rest his soul. Right. However, we might just reach one, and that's enough. That makes it all worth it, man. That one conversation with that friend that said, "Hey, man, if we didn't talk at that point, you don't even know what I was about to do." Well, right there might have been the whole purpose for your entire life, and we don't know that. We just don't.
True.
So it's don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough. We'll never be perfect on this subject, folks, but we can damn sure be better. That's how I look at it. I don't know. Yeah, man. I appreciate the work you're doing, man. It takes courage to think, to have the courage to get out, but then to also say, I'm gonna go to community college for a little bit, to go to Brown. I'm gonna be a sailor and go to fucking Ivy League school. What? Right? And to still be pursuing the things. And I'm not trying to kiss your ass. I'm just trying to give you roses while you deserve them, man. And I know you're an unselfish dude because I see the things like the people have said. They see you doing things in the world to try to make this fucking world a better place. We might as well. Might as well. And I see you
What other
doing it.
option are there? Yeah.
I've tried the other route. It's really fucking sad, and it makes me miserable. So,
No,
but
I appreciate it. And I appreciate you having me and you know, I mean 43rd episode,
thanks,
like
man.
that's
Thank you,
that's
man.
that's that's fantastic. And I'm really glad to be able to have our friend Kingsley connect us.
Yes, me too, man.
Um,
I love G, man. That's a great man right there. That's a Mustang All Star right there, man. That's a good man. That's a good man with a good fucking heart that really cares and has gaff, which is give a foxtrot, give a fuck. and we needed to have that genuine care and empathy, not sympathy, not coddling, not babying, but be
Right.
there, be firm, be fair, be there and care. And Kingsley's definitely one of those people, and I've seen it up close, live, and personal, and I see it from you as well, man. And it's just one team, one ugly ass fight, my brother. But
Exactly.
please, man, feel welcome to come back on here and share anything, anytime. It's to me, this has been nothing but a positive conversation. I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing things and letting everybody know like you're not always okay. But now what? Now what are we gonna do about it? And to have that courage to share, man. Some people are scared as shit to get on here. This whole idea started because I was like, we need to hear not just the fucking horror stories. We need to hear people that have pursued different ways and methods to live their best life, mental health wise, and share it and have real talk. And there was so many entities that were fucking afraid because you have to say fuck sometimes. You have to. You didn't. I'm just bad. I have less vocabulary. I'm not a nuclear physicist or anything like that. I'm not an engineer. I'm simple. But like, you got to be honest about these things. So the fact that you're doing that and being willing to be on here, man, I really appreciate it. And we just keep brick by brick adding them up, dog, and see if we can make this shit a better place, man. I don't know what else to do, bro. Lead like you want to be led and try to make it better while we're here, dude. Is there anything that you would want to close with to share with anybody?
I guess through all of it, don't forget to connect with nature, find your why, you know, and find your way to meditate or connect with nature or do something for yourself because your mental health is a part of your health. And last, and I tell people this all the time, tell the people in your life, whether they be your parents, your grandparents, even your friends, you love them because you never know when you never know your last time being able to talk to them. So have some gratitude in life.
Man, that is gratitude is one hell of a drug. It reminds me of Rumi, ancient philosopher and poet from the mid 14th century, something from out in the Middle East and what they used to call Arabia. But he said gratitude is wine for the soul. Go on, get drunk. That's what he said.
Ooh,
Gratitude is
I like
wine for the
that.
soul. Go on and get drunk. And it really is, folks. So make good choices. If you're feeling sad, feeling down, move. Gratitude and connect, man, because people need people. And if I can ever be a help, y'all know how to get at me, man. Y'all know. But don't let me be your single point of failure. Like, let's try to create tribes and try to create networks, and but people can't read minds at the same time. So like you said, man, gratitude, man, it's one hell of a drug. I appreciate you, man, for being here. Please come back and tell us like what goes on with the legislation, the projects you're doing, the people you're helping. It, this is going to help somebody. Somebody's going to hear this episode and go, "Fuck, man, I need to be more like Taryn." WWTD. What would Taryn do? You know what I'm saying?
I like that. I appreciate that.
But in all seriousness, man, thank you for your time and thank you for sharing, ladies and gentlemen. This has been another episode, number 43 of the Real Resilience Talk. Be the change y'all want to see, man. This life ain't perfect, but I swear to you, staying around is so worth it. Please don't make a permanent choice over temporary problems. All of this shit is temporary. Let's try to make it as best we can while we can. I say all of that with the utmost compassion and love to you all. One team, one fight. Like it or not, we all we got. And guess what? We are sponsored by Nobody, baby. There'll never be any fucking ads on here unless they make me. I will not monetize this. This is heart work. Much love to y'all. Kill.